everybody, this is the Wikstrand, and how do I celebrate 500 reviews? Well, with the bear burger. The bear must die. And this will not be a review of a certain bear movie such as The Edge or Cocaine Bear or even the best one, The Revenant, but this will be a review of one of the greatest movies of all time. I'm talking one of the 10 best movies in the history of cinema. One thing that made me so bumfuzzled when I saw it, that the last 2 minutes of this movie legitimately made my jaw fell through the center of the earth. And how do I celebrate this? Well, by indulging myself in some very, very good Portuguese white wine, and let's see if it is as good as this movie is, shall we? Well, it is very, very good, but it's not quite as good as this movie. It's not your usual movie. This is The Usual Suspects. San Pedro Harbor last night. A boat is the crime scene of not just a crime, a massacre. Dozens of people are dead, and there are only 2 survivors. A burned man who is in the hospital and is probably going to die before the end of the day, and a small-time crook called Verbal Kint, who is being, questioned by the LAPD. Now, they cannot really stick anything to him other than, weapons charges that will, maybe give him 6 months or something like that. But there is a man who has come down to California from New York, Special Agent Kuyan, played by Ches Palminteri, who is not really that interested in, the massacre or anything like that. He's mostly interested in a person who may or may not have been on this crime scene. Dean Keaton. We'll get to him in a second. And he thinks that Verbal Kint has simply, left out some things from his story, and they have at least at first, friendly conversation of what started all this, because 6 weeks ago there was a roundup of criminals in New York after a truck with guns had been stolen in Queens. And 5 criminals are rounded up: Fenster, McManus, Todd Hockney, and of course Verbal Kint and the aforementioned Dean Keaton, played by Gabriel Byrne. Now, Dean Keaton is sort of the odd man out because he has, been trying to become a law-abiding citizen, who has been trying to start his restaurant business and stuff like that. But when he is, arrested by said Dave Kuyan in the restaurant that is trying to pitch to the investors, they sort of jump off, and he falls back into his old ways of being a criminal again. He actually used to be a police officer back in the days. The thing is that after that, Verbal Kint guide us through, what happens to these 5 guys after the lineup when they are sort of released. Why were they being lined up, by the way? Usually it is you and, 4 dummies, as they say. Police pays, homeless people $25 to, stand beside you, so it is easier to pick you out in a line and stuff like that. By the way, I absolutely love the entire, lineup thing. Give me the fucking keys, you fucking cocksucking motherfucker! Knock it off, will you? How many fucking keys, you fucking cocksucker? What the fuck? As Benicio del Toro says in one of his earlier roles. And that entire thing, along with the interrogation sequences, just set the stage perfectly for this movie. I don't know what I love the most: the verbal confrontation in California, between Kint and Special Agent Kuyan, or the flashback where we see, the journey these guys are on, the revenge against the NYPD, and, the thing in California where, they ran into Solberg and his goons and stuff like that. That is absolutely amazing. And the thing is that it could have gone, in this sort of, Tarantino-esque way, but then something happened. There was a lawyer, Kobayashi. And then we enter the stage where we get to meet Kaiser Soze. We get to see it actually Kaiser Soze's backstory and, you know, what happened to him and stuff like that. And he's this sort of mythological, you know, kingpin of the underworld, and why he is targeting these 5 men and stuff like that, and the mystery behind him and stuff like that. It is so captivating. And this movie goes on for a bit, and we have these, you know, 2 running storylines that we know is going to meet eventually, and we know that Kint has survived, and we know that the stuff on the boat will happen on the boat, and we see all the planning and things like that, but we don't know what it means. And I'll tell you this, when this movie was wrapping up and when I saw it the first time, I said to myself, well, this is a really, really excellent movie. I mean, they have basically put 2.5 hours of, you know, plot into a 100 movie, and despite not having, you know, a fast pace or anything like that, they're able to make every single minute count. It never feels rushed. It never feels forced or anything like that. It just feels that it is so laser focused that we are just in for a fantastic ride here. With all the time stuff is happening, even in the more quieter, more somber situations. We are just so engaged because the characters are so good and the performances are so outstanding. Kevin Pollak is fantastic. Chazmal Matera is fantastic. Benicio del Toro is of course amazing, and we have the greatest performance by a Baldwin in any movie ever, and it's not even Alec, it's Stephen Baldwin. How is that even possible? But anyway, the thing is that when we have gotten to the very end of the movie, we are just, you know, so wrapped up in things, but it is still just a very, very exceptionally good movie. But then comes the thing that sealed this movie's fate. The last, I don't know, what is it, 200 seconds or something like that. And I will say this is no hyperbole. This is the single greatest 2.5 minutes of a finish of a movie. The editing, the music, when we realize what's happening, and just, you know, when that cup falls to the floor and we don't understand what's happening, and then we have the, you know, music and stuff like that. By the way, the music in this movie is so amazing. That was actually what I realized when I rewatched this movie the last time, that the music in this movie is absolutely fantastic. But we're getting sidetracked, and because when this happened, when I saw this the first time, I had never experienced anything like that. I don't know if this is the really first super twist that happens in the movie. I don't know, Sting might have been in it earlier, but that wasn't done in that sort of way. It was done more in a humoristic kind of, whoa, how awesome was that? This was more of a, what? And when that final line was delivered and the last boom comes, and, you know, end credits, you're just sitting there and sitting, oh my god. The first time I saw it, my jaw, as I said, fell through the center of the earth. But every single time I see it, and every time that cup falls, and every time, you know, they start, you know, fiddling with the sound editing, because the sound editing is what sells the entire thing when you're thinking about it. I just get goosebumps. It is something that is so amazing that I wish I could, you know, see it for the first time over and over and over again. It is maybe the greatest twist of all time. I don't know, and honestly, what could top it. As an ending, there has been endings that are almost as good. You know, Inception has an ending that is almost equal to that one, but I don't know. It's a podium finish. The thing is that unlike a movie like, you know, The Mist, who lives and dies with its last minute, this movie would still have been an amazing movie with fantastic performances, a amazing story, and, you know, a great character arc and story arc and stuff like that without the ending. But here, those last 2.5 minutes just, you know, skyrocketed that entire movie up until one of the single greatest films of all time. Together with Memento and The Prestige, this one is most definitely one of the 3 greatest thrillers that has ever been made, ever. And the fact is that $6 million bought you a movie that felt spectacular and epic. Sometimes you can see the budget's limitations, and sometimes things don't quite look as good as they could have done, you know, with a $20 million budget or something like that, but it still feels big time somehow, despite being a relatively short movie on a relatively small budget. And, you know, the sheer talent behind and in front of the camera is just so outstanding, and they actually are able to, you know, craft a movie where you have, you know, subplots and, you know, side plots and stuff like that that actually benefits the movie and make it feel even bigger, because it alludes to stuff that we don't get to see. But that, on the other hand, creates an even bigger movie than what we're already seeing. So should you see The Usual Suspects if you have never seen it? Of course you should. You know, turn off the video at once and just watch that movie, because it is such a fantastic experience. It's not your usual thriller experience, it is something even bigger. And if you have seen it, see it again. I've seen this movie maybe 15-20 times, and I can almost, you know, quote it by script, because there is just so razor sharp dialogue. It is just so fantastic. The tone and the atmosphere, it's just great. It's just so fantastically awesome. But the question is, am I praising this movie just because I was 16 years old when this movie came out and I watched it and I've never seen anything like it? And, you know, since then they have done a bunch of, you know, movies with fantastic twists and stuff like that. And would this movie have the same impact on me if I would have never seen it before and, you know, seen it for the first time now in 2024? I don't know. The fact is that there might be a case of, you know, nostalgia goggles being, you know, nailed to my eyes or something like that, but I don't know. When I rewatched the movie last night for the purpose of, you know, doing this review, just to make sure that the rating I'm going to give this movie is the correct rating, it just felt like this movie is timeless. This movie is absolutely amazing. There is really nothing that I can complain with when it comes to this movie. Sure, there is, you know, a certain number of things here and there you can say, well, how did that happen and how did they do that, and wouldn't that mean that, you know, stuff like that. And also we have, of course, the plane that changes from a, you know, 2-engine to a 4-engine when they start and when they land. But even the filmmakers have made fun of that, and I don't know, maybe they had a, you know, a connection when they were flying from New York to Los Angeles and they switched to a bigger plane. I don't know, and honestly, I don't care that much about it. I just love this movie 100%. And I think that this movie is a perfect movie. And anybody who has never seen this movie before, do see it. You will never ever regret it. It is an experience unlike anything I've had before when it comes to thrillers of this kind. It is absolutely monumental. A perfect story, razor sharp dialogue, laser focused filmmaking, fantastic soundtrack, and a flawless cast. I am, of course, going to give The Usual Suspects 100 points. This movie is absolute perfection, and I love every single minute of this movie. All of the characters in this movie, you care what's happening to them. You don't know what's going to happen next, and everything just flows through this movie like an endless river. And despite the fact that they have so short runtime, and despite the fact that they have so little budget, they're able to eke out a movie that feels, as I said, big time. Oh my god, I just loved this movie so much. So do you love The Usual Suspects as much as I do, or do you have some grievances with the whole thing? Comment below and I'll see you next time for, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much. 500 reviews!